Note, one cannot sin against God. Cathar Love 132. It's worth noting that one cannot sin against God. First, let's look at a couple of things. God and sin. Interesting subject. Most of those listening will belong to one of the great faiths, Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, or belong to them at one time in one's life. Hopefully there's a few atheists as well, scattered amongst the crowd. But just God. Well, for instance, the Buddhists don't believe in God. The Buddhist is about how to alleviate suffering in this world of ours, amongst ourselves. And this was Buddha's great dilemma, and he has achieved it to some degree. I'm just thinking about the Islamic Rohingya in Burma. Been given a hard time by some of the nationalists and Buddhists over there. So everything's not rosy in the Buddhist camp like other groups, just the same as other groups. The Buddhists don't believe in having a soul. Another group that was established long before Buddhism, very ancient, going back ancient times like Hinduism, the Jains. And the Jains, sometimes you see them in India and they've got no clothes on. They don't even carry a begging bowl. They're extreme ascetics. And they don't believe totally in non-violence and killing anything. In fact, before in India sometimes there would be a Jain and he'd actually have a broom and sweep his path before him so that he didn't step on any insects. So it was taken as too extreme as far as that. But they don't believe in a God. They believe in a soul and believe in karma. And I like the way they describe the soul. The soul is like you've just mined gold, and it's gold. But gold has its impurities in it, and gold has to be refined until it becomes absolutely pure. And so with karma, each time you do good works, you do something good, loving, kind, you're increasing karma and you're purifying that gold. And then eventually one can become a god and live very, very well in the afterlife. But as you use up your bank account of karma and you've actually got none left, then you reincarnate again and start building up good karma and so on. So I'm putting it very simplistically. So they don't believe in God. They believe that the world is everlasting, always was and always will be. And yet they believe in a soul. We have the Buddhists who don't believe in God and they don't believe in having a soul. Although there's variations now within Buddhism and things are changing, like the same with everybody else. But with the great faiths, the Abrahamic faiths, the Christianity and Judaism and Islam, they not only have a God, but their God is a personal God. In other words, it's in our likeness. And so I think most people, when I was young and was raised a Catholic and they talked about God, I tend to envision him as an old man with a beard. Then I suppose, feminists, and not just feminists, women, said, well, hang on, who says it's got to be a male, it could be a female, minus the beard, of course. And I agree with them. But this God is a God can be very wrathful. You know, you do the right thing, and he'll be a loving God and take you with it, take you up there to heaven and salvation. But you do the wrong thing, and you can be cast forever into the eternal fires of hell. Now, this is Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So, to that God, yes, there's sin. And those people believe in sin and that they can sin against that particular God, the Christian God, Islamic God, Jewish God. But that's not everybody's God. That's the God for that belief, for that particular group. Hinduism has hundreds of gods. No worries. They take their gods very seriously. The main one, of course, is the god with the elephant's head. It's a very interesting story how that all came about. I don't know if I can remember it, but evidently one of the female gods had a child, and when her husband, the main god, came back and this child had blocked the doorway, he was so angry he sliced off the child's head, and then his wife came out and she saw the child there, and anyway, to make amends, he said pick an animal, and they used the elephant, and so I ended up with the elephant's head. That's, believe me, I'm not telling it very well, but that's basically how the elephant's head came about. So they have so many gods. Now, you can't tell me that people, Hindus, the Hindu faith, and you see them, and they take their religion very, very seriously, and their beliefs very seriously, as do the Buddhists, as do the Jainists, just the same as Christians, Jews, and those of the Islamic faith. And yet, there's all these different gods, and some have no gods. So it's a vexing question. What about Gnostics? Well, from what I can see of Gnosticism, it doesn't say one has to believe in a God. It doesn't have to say one believes in reincarnation. The basics, the absolute basis of Gnosticism is simply that you connect, you have your own connection with the divine, and by doing so you need to be in charge of your own mind, body and soul, and obviously think for yourself. You don't need an intermediary, a priest or rabbi or a mullah or anybody else to intercede for you. You do that on your own. But then, what is the divine? So, this is basic Gnosticism. But the thing about Gnosticism is that to become a Gnostic, it means one has to think for oneself. And that means you listen to people like me or somebody else, someone's doing some course maybe or whatever, and you listen. But you have to make up your own mind based on your knowledge, your wisdom, which is based on various things, but most importantly, life experience. The Gnostic needs to be a Gnostic at some point of their journey, and not within Gnosticism, is connect with the divine. I'm sure there are Gnostics who believe they connect with God, whatever their particular God is. So it's a wide-ranging thing. But with Gnosticism, you've got pagan Gnostics. I mean, you can talk about Socrates and Plato, who basically they believe in an origin, and they believe in an afterlife, and they certainly took charge of their mind, body and their soul. So they're certainly they're Platonic, but they're also Platonic Gnostics. Then you've got Christian Gnostics, and my gosh, when you read the Gnostic Gospels, and the one contradicts the other, and it's very interesting reading. But the more you read, the deeper you get, and you know more but understand less. And of course, they were written for those times. And most of the early Christians, possibly 50%, I don't know what the amount was, but all the early church fathers believed in reincarnation. So within Gnosticism, that particular group, they were very, very much into reincarnation, but not necessarily all. And of course then that was wiped out from the church by the Justinian and Theodora in around the 500 mark, 534. And then we got the Cathar god. We can't leave out the Cathar god. Well, the Cathars don't say God anyway. And the reason why they don't usually say God or speak of God as God is because of the moment that one speaks of God. For most people, they tend to view this older and wise male with a beard, possibly a wise female, a personal God. Whereas to us, not to Cathars, the same as it's from Socrates and Plato. From that there is an origin of all things, a source of all, which brought everything into existence. And so that's one. But we know it's a benevolent, what we do know is it's a loving, benevolent, it's a good God, a God of goodness. So we don't believe, and we can't even, the Cathars of old couldn't work out how you could have a good God and have such a thing as hell, where one is damned for eternity. That doesn't sound like goodness to me. That sounds like real nastiness. So this hell and heaven doesn't come in the Cathar equation in any way whatsoever. There's the world of spirit. And there's this world, and there's other interplanetary worlds, and of course there's extraterrestrials. This is becoming quite obvious with the books such as the Disclosures that's out at the moment. All these scientists and ex-CIA, various people, and they're talking about that, and yet there's probably most people still extraterrestrial life doesn't come within the scope of their daily conversation or their daily imaginings. And in fact, I personally believe that the universe or universes are beyond our imagination. And also, as humans, we're very much caught up in what's happening now and what's happening in this moment, this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. And we can take that in, and that's all. But how do you take in the fact that we'll still be around in 500 million years from now? We may not, very most likely won't be on planet Earth. We'll be on some other planetary system, or maybe we've got to the stage that we've moved off our cycle of reincarnations, and now we're up there assisting those in help create other universes. The Cathars, the medieval Cathars, from what they knew then, and what we've learned since then with science and so forth, because being Gnostic means that you take in the science, you're not against science, where you can use science to prove or show different things. Well, we take that on board, of course. But there's good science and there's poor science, so that we know that too. But the Cathars have basically worked out the process or the system as they've understood it, and this is through their experiences, their experiences of reincarnation, their connection with the divine, with their guidance, science, what we can do now. We can regress back into our past lives. Now, if you're a Gnostic and you want to find out about things, and you really are not sure about past lives or past life, well, pay up and have a past life regression. Now, some people find it a bit difficult, but most people, if you have a decent hypnotist, they will take you back into a past life. I've done that on a number of occasions, and I have discovered things even before I was interested in Catharism. And then later, I was regressing people, and up to on 3 nights, there was nearly 90 each time. And on each night, only about half a dozen people did not regress and believe they had a past life. And I asked them, I'm not telling them, I said, what did you feel? And they then recounted their past lives, and not all of them, but a lot of them. And they just said to them, it was so personal, it was their past life. I said, well, look, I'm just the facilitator. You're the ones having the experience. So, and then I've done also with hypnosis. But in groups, I do it with a meditation because some people are worried about hypnosis. And I don't do too much of that at all these days, for one reason or another. So, to me, it's so obvious, and it's there for anyone who wants to experience it. It's not worth even talking about, debating. It's worth talking about, but it's not worth arguing or debating about. Because anybody, although I must say, I paid $400 to this particular woman in Sydney, and I said, look, I'm not too sure how good a subject I'll be these days. Oh no, so they did these few tests and this and that, preliminary. And she said, oh no, you should be fine. So I forked out my $400. No, nothing at all happened, I'm afraid. And yet I've had these past lives before, so there's no guarantee. But maybe I'm just a older and more difficult person, or my mind's a bit more difficult these days. I don't know. But why the world of spirit, and say why this earthly plane? And about what we consider the source, the Cathar God, if you like, the good God. The point of our existence is to experience all there is to experience as an individual, as a soul, as a divine spark. There are experiences you can have in the world of spirit, and you can gain knowledge over there, but we simply can't do here. But there are things that we need to learn about life on this planet, that you can't do in the world of spirit. Now, in the world of spirit, your energy, you can't go out and have a 3-course French meal with French cuisine. They don't eat. You're not going to find out too much about sex in the world of spirit. This is where you learn about sex. The good, the bad and the ugly parts about sex. The wonderful things, the things that aren't so wonderful. It's great, but just watch out for venereal disease. So there's downsides to sex and there's upsides to sex. There's all the human emotions of kindness and caring and the negative ones of anger and jealousy and so forth. You can't get caught up in the power games that we play here, in the political power games, the power games within the office, within the organisation. That doesn't happen in the world of spirit. In the world of spirit, they're not dealing with time. Here, we're dealing very much with time. We're born, we grow up, we get older, and you get to the stage where you're getting as old as me, and then it's not that long before it's time to venture off again. Drop off the perch, start again. So, the world as we have it, and it's a contingent world. You cannot create a world of experiences without having good experiences and having nasty experiences, with having youth and a child, youth, maturity and old age. You grow. Where there's black, there's white. There's a duality of everything. There are days and times of the absolute happiness, and there's times of horror, horrific times. All these experiences that we can have here, the good, the bad and the ugly, we can't have on the other side. And the process, it would appear to me, that it's like the good God, the source, has created us and wants us as a child, as a parent, to go out and experience all there is to experience, especially for your own personal development. But your personal development may not be the same requirements as what I need for my personal development. So each have their own set of experiences, and we can't gain all those experiences in one lifetime. So we need many lifetimes for pretty much everybody to gain all those experiences. And they're the experiences we can gain here that we can take to the world of spirit. And when we go there, that is what we talk about, what we did in this life, what our purpose was in this life that we came here in the first place for, and did we carry out that purpose, and to what degree did we carry it out. And within that lifetime, what good karma did we build up, which will then flow through to successive lives, and what nasty bits of karma did we build up that we'll also one way have to pay for. So this is God, this is the process, and from the Cathar point of view, the Cathar, it's a beautiful process. It's wide-ranging, it encompasses everything, there's reasons for everything, and ultimately we gain those experiences, we gain that wisdom, and ultimately we don't have to reincarnate, but we keep on going because our journey is eternal. So we come to the question of sin. Sinning against God. Well, of course, we know Jewish, Judaic faith, Christian and Muslims, they have sin and they have a God, and that's sin is a major aspect of their religion for which they're punished for, and if they're good, of course, they're rewarded. From a Cathar point of view, well, Gnostic point of view, I don't know, a Gnostic point of view. One Gnostic would probably disagree with another Gnostic. Some Gnostics deal with sin, and other Gnostics, it's a non-event. So it's that way. But from the Gnostic Cathar point of view, the only sin within Catharism is the sin of not knowing. And so if there is a sin, there's the sin of not knowing that there's no sin. So there's really, sin doesn't really come into our sphere at all. But karma does. Good works do. Being kind, generous, loving. This, if we can get to that stage, we're doing it in this life, that will carry through to our successive lives. So, one cannot sin against God. A Cathar within Catharism the God is the source. The source is unknown to us in human terms, except that we know that from the source emanates pure, unconditional, undifferentiated love, and that each and every person who's created will ultimately return to the source, and when that happens, we will return as experienced and wise old souls, I suppose. And until that time, we're going to go through successive rebirths until we get to that stage, and it takes a few of us a while to wake up. Some of us wake up quicker than others, but there's a happy ending. This salvation, damnation, sin, all this we talk about it. I'm talking about it now, but it doesn't come into one's day-to-day life. I'm involved with Chinese. My partner Monica's Chinese, but I've met a lot of Chinese in my life because I've been to China, lived in China. I fought Chinese. I've killed Chinese. So I've been involved with them in many very different ways. But the thing is, and I've met Chinese, very, very deep Chinese who are Christians, others who are Buddhists. But I also met a tremendous amount of Chinese that religion and God and sin, all this type of stuff, doesn't come into it at all. Hell and heaven, they just lead good lives because they know one should lead a good life and be kind and that. Of course, there's still those influences, but of Taoism and Confucianism and Buddhism, which has gone through. But Mao virtually said religion is the opium of the people. It puts people to sleep. Well, not too wrong there, I think. In a simple terms. But religion was put to the side, and so there's a whole nation of people where that religion does come into it, and yet they manage to get on without God and sin as we know it. But they still know when you're doing something what is good, and they still know when you're doing something that is wrong. But I speak primarily from the Cathar point of view, in as much as I've been taught. And Catharism, when I look at the other varied religions and belief systems, just for one thing alone, the fact they all, that I'm aware of, treat women as lesser than men, second class, and sometimes give them very much, not very much respect at all as intelligent and beautiful human beings. Catharism, right from the beginning, when it was introduced, always had sexual and gender equality. It had no hierarchy, then or now. When you stood in a room, a small room, they had no churches, a house, a forest, or a cave. Everybody was equal, whether you were high-born or low-born, a peasant or a citizen, everybody was the same. So there was this inherent humane beauty, this humaneness, this equality that that Catharism had from his very beginning. I think the coughs tell me I'd better get off. Bye for now. Talk again.